It doesn't have to be difficult standard. It can be a very simple standard. That's the main thing. Don't make it overcomplicated. Make it very practical. So it doesn't have to be difficult standard. Again, so it's too complicated. Prabhupada said in one place, if I was worshipping deities, just need a bell. You just pour water over it. It's not too often. I used to say, I know the Shinkarvacha Guru, he normally comes each year and I spend time with him travelling to different places, and most of the time he spends is demystifying deity worship. Because often, especially in temples, deity worship can grow to an elaborate, some pujari comes from one place, some pujari comes from another place, this gets added on, that gets added on, this gets added on. It becomes a very, very complicated affair. So especially I know that happened in the Krishna Balaram temple. Over the years they established this, not monstrous is not the correct word, but a very elaborate puja which took many devotees hours to do. So they had to cut it back down to basics of what Prabhupada gave actually. So deity worship at home doesn't have to be complicated. Don't make it complicated. Okay, you may want to, the more time that you have, your life will change, your kids will grow up, they get their own children, so more time will become available, then you might introduce more elaborate things, more longer doing puja. Prabhupada said about his father, Gaur Mohan Dey, he said his only business was puja. And in between that he made a little bit of money. All his whole business in the morning you do puja for 2 hours or something. And in the evening you do more puja, So it doesn't have to be too complicated, This one thing that came up, the place is too small, an altar would not fit in my small flat. Doesn't have, an altar can be this big. Can be very small. Give it just a shelf with some pictures on. So okay, if you've got ideas of an elaborate altar like in the temple, then you're in your little bedsit or whatever. But it doesn't have to be, it can be very small. We've got some, I think I'm going to run a little PowerPoint with some pictures of home altars coming up. I think after this I'll show you. My flat, my small flat, my house is too small. And this is one as well. It takes too much time. It's something we should consider of how much time it's going to take. But it doesn't have to take too much time. It should be practical. It should fit in very nicely to your specific lifestyle. If you're working or studying, then you arrange it accordingly. Again, it doesn't have to be too elaborate. Nobody's, I don't know how. I mean, that's why we're here. And that's another bit, how to do the worship, Also, we have this, I'm just looking through this very nice resource book that you have here. It goes, is very nice, and we discussed as well over the next 2 days we're together, teaching you how to do the worship, to feel more comfortable with that. This one we came up, isn't it? I live with Deities. How do we? Does it mean we can't have an altar at home, or we can, but we might not put the altar in the front room. It might be to a private altar, like if you're living in a house and you're the only veggie or whatever, and then you wouldn't have the altar downstairs in the front room. You might not. You might have it in your bedroom, a private altar. So it makes it. It doesn't mean if you live with meat eaters, you can't have worship the Lord on an altar. Is that?
But wouldn't you want them to take darshan of the deities as well?
So you have to. That's a consideration that you have to take into consideration. If you want them, then It depends on who the personalities who you're sharing with, you know. You want them to take darshan of the deities, but then, you know, if they're sitting there eating Kentucky Fried Chicken in front of the deities, then it might not be the best. Or they're watching all these, you know, the deities are there in the front room and they're watching all types of horrific things on the, whatever it is, the television or the computer, you know. This might not be the best place for the deities, so you know, alright, they get benefit, but I'm not. Yeah, so every situation is a bit different, but you've got to think of that, you know, think of these things. You know? Yeah. Is that okay? Listen, no one. There are animals in the house, cats running around everywhere. You know. Maybe a fish bowl. That's more easier to probably. Not such a big thing. Fish swimming around in a bowl. We've got cats and things like that. So what's the advice on this one?
Separate room.
Huh?
Excuse me, sorry.
You said?
In a separate room.
Separate room, yeah. You should.
Just closed off.
Yeah, cats or animals are not known for being very sattvic. So, there's an interesting point here. Read from here. Yeah, but basically better to keep the animals out of the area where the altar is, if there is, you know. Shouldn't be rabbinical household. We shouldn't be Brahmins. We should worship the devotees. We shouldn't. Remember what happened to Jabbar, you know. Got too attached to you know, Plus some devotees do have pets, or some devotees living in houses where there's pets or there's cats or something like that. Okay, it's not the best at all. But you should at least keep the better to keep the animals out of the area where the altar is. Obvious, no? The cats jump up on the altar. So these are some things you have to think when you're establishing an altar and where you're going to put the altar. We'll discuss that. And finally, I think this one here. I share a house with non-devotees. I think we tackled that a bit, you know. You may do the worship instead in your own private bedroom, you know, like that. Okay, perhaps at this point, let's just show you a little. Here, let's come out here, a little. This interesting little thing to see. This is some examples of whole altars. Okay, it's many. They come in all shapes and sizes. Whole altars. Some can be very small. Yeah. It's obviously in someone's bedroom, maybe a student or something. Very small. Quite elaborate little altar. You know, God is high there. Pictures of Radha Madhava, some Pantatattva, you know, looks like to do a study. It can be quite big for the size of the room, but it's a private, it's a small altar. There's some more close-up of the same altar. It's so interesting to see what they've got there. Most lot of devotees have that. They have deities will go inside that have pictures of Radha Krishna, maybe pictures of Radharishwar, Radha Gokulananda, you know. Pantatattva, it's nice to always have Pantatattva as well, and Prabhupada, the picture. They've got a Murti of Prabhupada there. Some other Sakoswamis there, picture of the spiritual master. Should be there as well. Point from that, we should, before we may have deities or establish worship, we should get permission. Get blessings from the spiritual master or senior mentors, you know. First, you know, get permission, you know, before you may take up the worship. Good point. Yeah. Again, close up with that same small. Personal meditation. God is so interesting. You can see the dressing is quite simple. No, doesn't have to be very elaborate. You know?
Is that the dhoti they're wearing? Just out of interest.
Does? Shorts. They got shorts on here. Interesting.
It's quite hot to that day.
Beach.
Yeah. In temples, for temple worship, Prabhupada said Gaudita should never go without their tops. So you won't see that in temples, not least from temples.
Krishna can go with
Yeah. So we have to do it once a year or something.
I think in my prayer I've seen sometimes they don't have sometimes. I think when it gets really hot, I think in my
No,
prayer.
there's instruction. The instruction in the Western countries.
Oh, right,
He probably says in your Western countries.
yeah.
What is like you not go without tops. Sometimes, occasionally it gets really hot here as well. The guys want to dress one side without tops. No, he's got this quote from Prabhupada. We'll do it. No, they look beautiful, and then without the tops. Anyway, this home worship, small altar. This is more of a functional altar. Say they may offer boga, yeah. That's simple. May offer the boga there. There's a picture of. I think there's a close. Have a picture of that. Very simple, yeah. Very simple. Bare essentials, pictures. But this is good for a student, Student, someone who's, I ain't got no time for nothing. Or, very simple, pictures, place to offer the boga, somewhere to offer the boga. Go on the time. I went to his house, I've been there a couple of times, and I took a photo of him there. He has an altar at home. He worships. He's got Govardhan Shila, Shalagam Shila. He worships Shalagam Shila. A very small Shalagam Shila there. Something else to consider as well, because he travels a bit, so he takes the Shalagam Shila with him. He takes it with him wherever he goes, But at home, this is his small little altar. There he's got Landaneshwara, Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra, Tulsi, Nrsingadev, important, so Nrsingadev there as well on the altar, picture, Guru, Prabhupada like that. Yeah, he was speaking last night about his worship at home. He was doing really interesting. He's describing about offering boga that he's now he's more in the beginning it was like what I like to eat I just offer to Krishna, but now he's more in the mood of what does Krishna want to eat, And even if he's not hungry, then he understands that he has to cook something for Krishna. Okay, I'm not hungry. What about Krishna? It's going very, very personal, very devotional. And so it goes back a bit. Medium size or medium size, bigger. These are kind of these deities like this, Gaudita. Interesting, they're like this. Our Gaudita are the same as that. I think the other way around. The other way around. Their hands join in the middle like this. Yeah. So the point I'm trying to get across, the orders come in all shapes and sizes, It's good also, good point. It's the one thing you can do. It's nice to keep fresh flowers on your altar. Some of you when you come home from work, buy a bunch of flowers, or pick a few from parks. Like we've got Sabita, is it? She's got this wonderful, every Saturday she brings in a bag with all the flowers, So her garden's dedicated to Radha Landaneshwara, So she brings roses, all these people. There's so many flowers she brings in the season. This time is right.
Should we offer every day? Should aim to offer every day? It's nice.
So flowers.
Yeah.
It's a point. That's what's simple. It's good to do. It's nice. Don't let flowers rot on the altar. It's very offensive. It's not very nice to just let flowers die on the altar and not to clear them away. We'll describe that next week a little bit about cleanliness, different aspects of cleanliness. Nice to have always fresh flowers for the Lord.
We tend to offer flowers when we're doing the arati, and what tends to happen, especially in the summer months, it gets quite warm in the temple room, and the flowers do get quite quickly.
So you have to.
No, but we offer flowers every day, so we take them all.
Yeah,
so take them all.
Towards the end of the day, they may a little bit.
Yeah.
But the main point is we should be attentive to our altar. It's a place of devotion. It's a place to express our devotion. So many times I've been in houses, not devoted stuff, but other Hindu type women. The altar's just a big mess. It's just in the corner, and the flowers have not been changed for 2 weeks. The flowers have died, and there's all dust and mess everywhere. And That's not home worship. So we're teaching something else, and to be devoted should be more conscientious, you know. That again, as we described earlier, the Lord is present. It's like having, the Lord is present, so we should have that mood of devotion. Clean the altar every day, do some worship. Yes?
It's probably a bit of a silly question, but what do you do with the flowers afterwards? Not when they rot, but
yeah.
so if you do change them every day,
yeah, you should take them to the Ganges. What do we do every day here? Yeah. What you should do, if you go into Mayapur every morning, at some point you'll see a brahmachari come with a big basket on his head with flowers. He goes to the Ganges and very simple. But practically speaking, we don't have that. We have the Thames, but it's not very simple. So I don't know if it helps. What we do here, we have in the Bajai department, we have two bins. We have standard bin. We have a Maha bin. Yeah, the Maha bin is where all the Maha flower goes. You know, flowers, garlands, anything that's been used in worship, it goes in the Maha bin. Now, both those bins go to the same place. But the idea is for us to make some sense of conscientious discrimination. This is sacred. So at least we have that separate Maha bin. And then we do that bin, when it gets full, we tie it up, and the other bin, it goes to the same place. But at least there's that respect there for Mahaprasada. If you have a garden, you have a little compost or something, you can do that, or
back to the nature.
Then you can do that. You can put it in the back garden. That's something else to go. Most people now are living more in flats than their own houses. If you're still living in a house, you're very rare. But does that help? Yeah, you can Maha bin, have a separate bag or something for your Maha garlands like that.
So if there are parks nearby, like you can put it back to the nature.
You can do that. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I thought I deleted that photo. It came back. I don't know why that's there, but I got this from the Sri Nikavasha group. But listen, this is where we speak about that, about where to put your altar. We'll touch on it now, but it's a nice consideration. The light coming from the light's coming. Let's just consider what's the Lord going to be looking at? You know, what's he going to be taking darshan of? A wall? That might be consideration. You might another consideration. I know one devotee's got his deities looking out through got double glazing in the garden, looking out the garden. You know? Traditionally, deities should face which direction? East. Yeah, where the sun rises. That's nice. So the sun's rising, and the rays are coming on the wall. But that might not always be practical in your house. You know? So you do what's practical. If the circumstances are such that they can face east, it's nice. If not, don't worry about it. Houses generally not built to plaster. If you can, it's nice. Yeah. Yes.
I heard something once that I'm not sure where it's from, but you worship the northwest, or is it, or northeast? Is that the same thing, Basti?
Yeah, I haven't heard that. Okay, well, I generally hear they should face east.
Oh, face east.
Yeah, they should have heard.
My mum always said that when you pray, you must face the sun where it rises, so you face the east. So the temple should be, the back should be to the east, so when you doing the darshans, he's like the sun, so we, that way.
Okay. Yeah. Yes, there's very different considerations, you know.
I guess it's more pleasing for the Lord when the sun's rising and the sun's on him.
Yeah, that's how they... In the big temples in India, they do quite... I see that they elaborately, the way they're built scientifically, so when the sun comes up, the rays come through a particular window, and it goes on the lotus feet of the Lord, you know. And these are built thousands of years ago as well, you know?
I know in Vietnam with the sun literally goes on the deities.
Yeah, this goes on the deities.
Ours is for ours is just for practicality purposes. We've got the deities facing west, and it's just it's like the readings.
Do you have anything to show us? Because your family comes from a Sri Vaishnava, isn't it?
Yes, so my mom is an initiated Sri Vaishnava.
Okay, does she have anything they
So
think that
we have Sri Lakshmi Narayana on the altar.
any specifics about the
There have been no specific, because we live in a flat as well, so it's hard to maneuver your way around.
so you just do what's practical. Yeah, mostly it's like that, we do it practical. This is nice, you notice there's a little addition you might want, the curtains around the altar? That's nice. Somebody wrote it's a nice standard when you're taking prasadam, you do that. Or when it's time for sleep, you will not sleep, put curtains around, it's very nice. You might have that, you might not. It's another thing you might want to consider if it's practical. This is that same altar. Nice, we've got Jagannath there. We've got a nice backdrop. Yeah, that's one quote. Read. There's some nice quotes in this book here about. Just read. This is from Prabhupada, especially for household devotees who are opulent in material possessions. The path of deity worship is strongly recommended. An opulent householder devotee who does not, you ready for this? Who does not engage his hard-earned money in the service of the Lord is called a miser. One should not engage paid brahmanas to worship the deity. Deity worship in the temple should be performed especially by the householders. Grihastha devotees are generally engaged in two activities. This is from the seventh canto of this quote. To know the verse Shravanam Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, there's one of the biggest purports in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Prabhupada speaks about Archanam very elaborately, and this is from there. Grihastha devotees are generally engaged in material activities, and therefore, if they do not take to deity worship, you ready for the next thing? Hold on to your seats. Their falling down is positively assured. Oh. Any householder devotee circumstantially unable to worship the deity must at least see the deity worship. So come to the temple. That's also deity worship, just take a darshan. And this way you may achieve success also. And the main point I wanted to get this quote for was that it's a good thing to spend money on. If you have an altar, you've got a bit of extra money. Wow, amazing. You've got some extra money, what should we do with it? And let's get a nice backdrop painted for our deities, you know. There's so many things. Or get some nice shoes, you know. Buy some nice shoes. I want to get shoes with diamonds. The wife approaches the husband, we get rubies in the shoes. You get the point. It's something to spend their money, something to spend their money on. You know? You do somebody donation, you can spend the money and worship here. But that's the idea, that's what we should do with our wealth, you know. Buy what we need, but generally we should live very simple, you know. We shouldn't live like materialists, you know, just collecting stuff and stuff. But money we could spend on Krishna, nice backdrop. Or if you're an artist, you know someone, they can paint backdrop for you, you know. You can have 2 backdrops, 3 backdrops. We've got many. We've got 2 more. What to do with them? Don't know where to put them. We've got many backdrops.
I've got a question. Just going back to the previous slide. You had that Ganesh there.
Yeah.
We get. I
knew I should have deleted it.
No. The question is actually a valid question because what tends to happen is we go to like people's places and they give us a murti of Ganesh, or even if they give us a murti of Krishna or Radha Krishna. What do we do with it? How do we?
That's another thing another thing, very important thing, is often devotees they explain this that he just came to me. The Shalagaram Shilas came in. When the Shalagaram, if someone offers you a deity, the best thing to say is, thank you, but I'm not qualified to worship. I will not be able to. It doesn't mean it's arranged by the Lord. Don't think it's arranged by the Lord that this deed has come to me. It may be, but maybe not as well. Or maybe just someone just wants to give their deed away to someone, anyone. So the point I'm trying to make is that it doesn't mean you shouldn't accept. Otherwise, in 5 years, you're going to have these deities,
which is what's happened.
Yeah, it should be
No, you go to someone's wedding and they'll give wedding gifts as Radha Krishna deities, as in like deities, Murtis or.
So they're like deities. I know what.
They're like these.
So we had a family wedding and they gave us a beautiful Krishna, with a flute and everything. But each household got one, and it's like. Now,
what do we do?
What do we do?
It sits on the side of the altar, but we don't.
What's it made from?
Just like a
porcelain.
It's just like a plasticky type.
Yeah. In this day and age now, this day and age, but recently over the last 5 or 10 years, there's this proliferation of these Radha Krishna Murtis, very cheaply made.
Yeah, and that's what we tend to accumulate.
Yeah. Now that type of thing, I remember Srinivasan was speaking about this when I attended the home worship seminar with him. They're not exactly, you can just put them on the side.
Okay.
Yeah? On the side. And then you won't get, it's not the same worship you give to your altar deities.
Yeah.
If you can, try and politely, such things come, try and politely, I'm sorry, thank you. But if circumstances means you can't, it doesn't mean you have to take them home and establish worship of them.
Yeah.
You just put them in a respectful place.
Yeah.
Well, they're still in the temple, but just on the side. So, obviously, we've got the main
just do
altar.
like that. Don't figure. Yeah. But the point I'm addressing here is more when you go to India, someone gives you a shalagram Shiva. No, first you should. No, thank you. Let me consider it. Let me ask my spiritual master. Actually, I'm not ready yet for this thing. The point I'm trying to make. It's not always the arrangement of everything's the arrangement of Krishna in one sense, but at the same time, it might be more the intelligent thing to do is say no. So, I know many senior devotees they get offered deities. You can imagine sannyasis they go over. They often do no, sorry, can't. You understand the point I'm making here? Don't consider it. Anyone who approaches you with a deity, okay, it's Krishna's arrangement. Because you might find you make offences. It might be detrimental to your spiritual life rather than favourable. Let's continue. And more large. So some you might be. Some houses they have a room dedicated to the worship. That's nice. I wish I'd taken a photo. Actually, I do have a photo. I should use it here. Vishnu Murti, the head pujari in Leicester. Wonderful devotee. In his house he has a separate room, a beautiful altar for his deities. And the whole wall behind his altar is painted like Vrindavan. It's very beautiful, And he has the altar like that. So here, anyway, if you do a separate deity room, so to speak, in your house, okay, I thought I deleted this, so it came back. Now this picture's here. Now notice something about these little Gopals, The reason this picture is here, because this is mentioned we should be careful what deities we have on our altar. Because sometimes even children will say, Mama, I want this, I want to No. Like here you can see, like, one eye missing, there's another eye missing, it's all, this one eye is falling out, where it's not very maintained very well. So you should be get the point I'm making here. You should be careful about accepting anything and everything under being pressurized to accept deities, that you can't take care of. Here's a nice that's the Prabhupada, yeah? Nice little Vyasana Prabhupada. Okay, let's take this. Go. Yeah. Yeah, this is children's dolls. We speak about children deity worship in a minute, but this is Gauritai, Jagannath there, large altar. These are big altars, someone's house. This is somewhere in Mumbai. Somewhere in Radha Krishna, Panchatattva, Gauritai. It's a big elaborate, it's a big Bhoga offering going on, festival. There's another, someone's house, a separate room, We do have a nice backdrop. Okay, so just to give you an idea. Okay, we've gone through these, so let's get back on the slide again. Okay, where do we do the worship? It's not a trick question, is it? We do the worship on an altar. Actually, this slide should have came before the slides I showed you. Yeah, sorry. We do the worship on an altar. They come in different. What does an altar look like? We've already shown you that. You know. This one. Do I need to become a brahmana or even initiated within? No, you don't. Prabhupada said, there's no need of becoming. It is not necessary to be a brahmin to have a home altar, okay? Main thing of focus, you get permissions from any seniors, or you're taking guidance from the spiritual master. Yeah? Okay? Or even initiated. Still have an altar at home. Yeah? Okay, children and deity worship, your idea for having altars, excuse me, spelled that wrong, altars, is to train children in deity worship is very nice, that your idea. So, and then this quote here. Someone would like to read from here? You're the chosen one.
Yes, the proof of your teaching method shall be seen in the spiritual improvement and fresh enthusiasm exhibiting by the children. If they are allowed to worship the deity by practicing artik very seriously, plus always be engaged in different various activities centered around Krishna, then their education will be completely successful.
Good. So Prabhupada was very encouraging it. And here in this handout you've got some nice quotes about what Prabhupada said about children deity worship. At the same time, Prabhupada was very encouraging. At the same time, Prabhupada also was, there's this quote here, no, I do not think you should have Jagannath. Too small, I don't think you should give Jagannath to small children, because they will not take proper care and make offence, you know. Yeah. Then Prabhupada, he gives specific, next quote he gives, let's just read this then. Deity worship can be learned at no less than 10 years by children. Yeah, more than 10, because what do children do with their fingers, all types of things, you know, so before that they can assist, they can learn how to bow down, how to dance and chant, you know, how to make gardens, clean the arty utensils. In this way they can be engaged. These are also different parts of deity worship. Okay? So keep that in mind. Yeah, children, yeah, that's why even we have these dolls they sell in Mayapur, Jagannath or see kids throw them. It's not good, you know. It's not good. You know. It doesn't create a nice mood. And there is some nice examples of Prabhupada himself worshipped deities from a very young age, isn't it? A very young age he was worshipped. Also another is Maharaj Parikshit, from a very early age he was worshipping deities, you know. So it can, we see, as you've got children, you can see, you know. Perhaps, who's got children here? No? Can you perhaps share something about children, how they relate to the altar?
My son, he's 23, but he started going to men or doing Gau Seva from the age of 9. Okay. So he sometimes, when I'm not around, he does deity worship.
Especially young children, it creates, you know, they copy, they imitate it from the parents. Can you share something?
If I'm making prashadam is hot, like hot, it just come off, then I'll set it in Krishna's plate, and the girls will go and serve it, and they know how to say all the mantras and everything. And they're very good at reading from the Bhagavad Gita and everything as well. So,
then they read to the deities.
Well, sometimes they do that. RP type, they'll look the book and they'll read a page or something, and they prepare for sanghas and they read at sanghas and everything as well.
So that's it. So thank you for sharing. That's it. Sometimes it's an anxiety, like young couples bringing up the having children, and then how to make sure they're going to be Krishna conscious. You know, that's always the anxiety of the parents. You know, if you have deity worship at home and you worship every day, there's a whole culture going on. There's just singing for the deities. You're offering yoga to the deities. You know, maybe a picture altar, whatever. But then when children are born in that atmosphere, they invite that same spirit. You know? For them, it becomes very natural. You know? Very natural thing. That's why Prabhupada will encourage you very much.
And also when they're at school, they're not shy to say that they're vegetarian, they're very confident in what they believe in. So all their friends actually come up to them and ask them questions, and they're very interested in how their beliefs and everything as well. So it's, so they don't shy away from it, they're actually quite confident.
That's real preaching, It's real preaching. The children preach, you have to affect on other children. Who's the most famous one for doing that? Prahlad, you know? Young boy, you know? All his friends to become Vaishnavas. It's a whole elaborate story. His father wasn't very happy about that. Okay, so alright, with some more details now. Who should I worship on the altar? Okay, we had some pictures. We should worship on the altar?
Krishna.
From Prague, we've got generally for us Gaudiya Vaishnavas under ISKCON, so to speak, we worship Parampara, respective spiritual masters. Nice picture. I think we gave, did everyone get in the congregation, got that nice...
the 5, the 6.
Nice Parampara thing, you know? Very nice.
You put it on
Okay.
Yeah, very nice, Panchatattva deities. Golden times. Now describe next Jagannath Baladev. So these are generally the deities who devotees will worship, Golden times, Jagannath Baladev, and Lady Subhadra, Radha Krishna. Any other deities you've seen? Well, I suppose there's hundreds, isn't it? The Shingadev.
There's Ladu Gopal, they had them on the altar.
Ladu Gopal, yeah. So Ladu Gopal is traditionally the worship of the Pushti monks. Yeah, that's their worshipful deities. Our worshipful deities, Jugala Kishore, Radha Krishna. But I was at one devotee's house the other day. Some devotees have Murtis of Haridas Thakur. Yeah, we've got Murtis of Haridas Thakur. The devotee's house I went to, it's got this elaborate altar with these beautiful old deities, isn't it?
Oh, Varun Brahma.
Varun Brahma, everyone know Varun Brahma?
Oh, he gets it.
His altar,
I think he's got really special deities there.
Going hundreds of years, he's got pieces of Lord Chaitanya's dhoti and all that. Prabhupada's cloth he had on when he passed away. So again, so this is so pictures. The advantage of having a picture altar is there's no regular worship required. You can go on holiday, you can do anything, you can go away all day. You don't have to do, you don't have to give the pictures to someone to worship. You don't have to put them to sleep. There is no regular worship is required. That's why sometimes Prabhupada would encourage devotees to have, when they want to establish centers, he would rather, because if there wasn't enough Brahmins available, he would say have Guru and Gauranga altar. Guru and Gauranga altar. That means Guru and Gauranga pictures. Because there's no regular worship required. So that might be good for, as I mentioned a few times, a student or you can do all aspects of the worship. Yeah, you can still clean the picture. You can make gardens for the picture. You can offer boga like that. You can either do all aspects or you can do none. Yeah, you can do all aspects of worship or none. It's very important. Yeah. It can be any form of the Lord you like. You could have Radha Krishna at home in the form of a picture. Once you have deities, that's more is kind of expected or required, At the same time, it's a letter from Prabhupada. There is no difference between me and my picture, therefore we should honour and keep pictures in that spirit. If we throw pictures this way and that way, that is offence. The name and picture are as good as the person in the spiritual world. In the material world, either picture or person, everything is illusion. But still, having said that, the picture is not regular worship is required. Although you should still be respectful, it's considered non-different. But the picture is more... Yeah? Yes?
You mentioned about with pictures, we get a lot of pictures, a lot of books that come through.
Yeah.
What do we do with them?
Yeah, what do you do with pictures?
Obviously we get festival cards from the temple, temple in Rockford, temples in India, and they all come, we've got them there.
The pictures of Radha and Buddha.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so what do we do? Like, the small temple cards that come there, advertisement type of things.
Again, you can have your Mahabin. Some devotees will have a place, a box where they put these things, like a box. Or if not, if you don't have that facility, you can at some point we'll put it in Mahabin throw out. Any comments on that?
The thing is, we tend to accumulate a lot of these things. We've got like a whole two or three shelves worth of it, and you're thinking, what do I do with it? It's.
Yes.
I was just going to ask. I've also heard, I don't know where it came about, but I've also heard that with any Krishna pictures, it's considered that you can just offer it to Agni Dev, so basically burn it. Is that something that?
I haven't heard that, but if it's a sacred fire, then you can offer it into sacred fire. I haven't heard that exactly. What's your feel about that? Pictures of Krishna and the burning. Main thing is you could have a Mahabin if things get too much, too kind of clogged and cluttered, because then you may have to manage it a bit, Yeah, you can manage it.
Yeah, we've just gone into that accumulation phase, and we don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, it's nice to give stuff away. I tell you there's one thing you can do. Shall I tell you what I do with pictures and that I collect? I just leave them on reception. I give them reception within 2 days, they're all gone. So I should have said that. You're going to bring boxes to reception.
Calendars.
Yeah, calendars. Yeah, it's like all the calendars from 2000.
Yeah.
2000.
Well, what we do here in the temple, we put it in a Mahabin at some point. When the festival's over, because we can't, it just gets impractical. Otherwise it'll be full of stuff, You have to be practical. Put it in this, at least have the, maybe you've got the Mahabin, a separate throw out, disrespectful, understand? That's what they do in Mayapur, all their festivals and presentations, forms and things like that. They put in sacred fire, or they put in the Ganges, Yeah? Okay, it can be brass deities. What's the benefit? Brass deities, they can be dressed or baked. Yeah. And it also, they need to be polished regularly as well. So it's a thing, if we get brass deities, then they need to be polished. Regularly, once a Kadashi or once in 2 weeks. That's something to consider. But they're very robust as well. Some things may happen. Children fall down the cloth where the deities are sitting on, and they fall over. There's probably not going to be any damage. So that's something you might consider as well. Take consideration. Very quite more robust.
When we're polishing them, do we just polish with cloth, or do we?
I'll show you next week. We'll do a hands-on demonstration next week. They're very heavy as well. Yeah? And also make sure if you are getting brass deities, a lot of deities now, as you can imagine, are made very cheaply, very quickly, and you can make sure you go to a good place, get a reputable place where you're going to get good brass deities that are made of real thing. I don't know the science of making deities, but sometimes they're made very compromised, and they start to break, and holes start to manifest. So make sure if you get brass deities, make sure you get very, as best as you can, good quality ones. marble deities. They look very beautiful. They can be dressed, but very fragile. Yeah? Very careful. Break very easy. And how many times devotees ask me questions what to do with their broken marble deities? So you should consider that. They may look very beautiful, but they're very delicate, especially if they're small deities and they're made of marble. It can easily break. You're doing the worship and they break.
What happens if they are broken? Do you still worship them? Or?
Yeah, well, according to Smarta Vichar, then generally, if you've been worshipping these deities for a long time, and there may be some breakage, you can fix them. And if the breakage is such that it's not disturbing your meditation, but if the breakage is severe and they're broken in many places, and by the time you put them together they look like a jigsaw puzzle, then that's when you might consider then getting other deities. And where to put them? This is the Ganges. This is then devotees going to India, something like that, Yeah. It's a step up from putting them in the Mahabin. So then some are taking deities, devotees deities are broken, put them in the Ganges. So something to consider if you're going to have deities. Pictures, marble, or brass or marble. Got times to do bas relief. Everyone know what bas relief is? It's kind of bas relief. I can just describe bas relief.
Semi-sculpture.
Semi-sculpture. It's like comes. How can you see the side of bas relief?
It's like.
Maybe you have like a mold, right?
Yeah, it's like with the flat surface and they're half coming out.
Okay,
Yeah, that's it, Lord of Shingadev is a bas relief in Mayapur. Very interesting. Then we got these, I think we mentioned, we got these China deities. Not suitable. They're hollow, easily breakable, Also fiberglass, resin deities. Even Prabhupada in the beginning, early days, he asked devotees to make, or devotees suggested to him, he said it was okay to make, but not very good if you can't bathe them. I mean, you can, but at some point the deities are going to start. It's going to not last for long,
What do you do with not necessarily resin, but a type of plastic which kind of replicates brass but isn't brass? What do you do with them? So, for instance, I know I work at Avanti school, and they were testing out some, because all the classrooms have deities.
Yeah,
so we ordered a set of prototype deities to test the quality, and they realized when they actually set them, they were kind of like plastic but brass, just finished. What do you do with that then? How do you get rid of them, or do you dispose of them? Do they go to Ganga? Are they considered deities, or?
Yeah, if it's not suitable for you, then you have to kind of get rid of them. It's not something good. But then send them back to where they came. These are not suitable for us. These are not the right materials. Just like if you buy something from Amazon or something, you send it back. But the point to consider is be very careful before you accept deities. Make sure you're getting good quality deities. Otherwise, you've got problems like you have. And what do you do with them? What do you do with them? And then you put them to one side, for now and then. So we're going to go for another 10 minutes. Any other questions about this? Yes.
Could you buy your own deities? If you wanted to buy deities, somebody asked me this question. Who asked
today? Yeah, deities, yeah. Not we still do, not.
No. You personally go and buy your own deities? But you can?
Yeah. Shalagam Shila is different, no? Shalagam Shila, you have to be, I don't know the science of Shalagam Shila.
I know Giriraj is like that.
You have to get given by a rough bus as a whole thing. You have to leave the same amount of weight in gold with every. But deities, no, that's what deities go, and they look at deities. They go to Jaipur, and they go to different places, and they look in different deities, and they buy them. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah. Okay, let's. Then we got. Also painting as well. Sometimes you can get someone can do a real painting, like an oil painting of deities that can be worshipped. Deity of the Lord is said to appear in 8 varieties: stone, wood, metal, earth, paint, sand. In the mind, Manasa Puja, and I make a deity of jewels as well. In sand, generally yogis will do a yantra or something and offer some flower petals, do some worship, like that, temple worship. Here describes, Srila Jiva Goswami explains that certain deity forms, such as those made of sand, are manifested for a brief time to fulfill a personal desire of the worshipper. Those, however, who desire to attain pure love of God should worship the permanent form of the deity, made of, for instance, marble, gold or brass, and they should maintain continued worship. In Krishna consciousness there is no scope for neglecting the worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay? So this is a question. How do you install deities at home? Yeah. How do you install deities? Any ideas? What do you do?
You had somebody come round.
Yeah.
You have someone come, like,
Come round.
what do you call it? Pimlico plumbers.
No,
Can you throw up?
it's
Someone to come round. Yeah, but
He did like Abhishek and he
Yeah,
did
that's
fire ceremony and he invited
so there was a fire ceremony, there was an Abhishek. What else? Kirtan.
Prashadam.
Yeah. In other words, for home deities, there's no. And that's another. What's the difference between installed deities and uninstalled deities? I mean, I won't go there for now. But there doesn't have to be. It's not an elaborate prana pratishtha, which takes over 2 days. It can be a very simple thing. Installation may just be Abhishek. Invite Vaishnavas, have kirtan and give them a shot. Yeah. And you make a note of when the day started. Someone come, give a little class, pravachan, prashad, Abhishek. Fire yagna is a bit more elaborate. Yeah? It doesn't have to be. Someone might do it elaborate. Someone may do a netramalanam, one aspect of the prana pratishtha. The full installation takes 2 days or 3 days. Yeah? And one aspect of that is netramalanam, where the Lord opens his eyes. So now some devotees who do that in home worship. When they begin the worship, they have that little ceremony where the devotees, the eyes of the deities are bound. You may see this Krishna Vanti school also do that. And Radha Raman does that. And it's very nice. You bring auspicious things before the Lord and so forth. The point here is, it doesn't have to be an installation process. The perhaps we'll finish on this point. Yeah, what's the difference between installed and uninstalled deity? Srila Prabhupada didn't specifically use hardly ever the words installed or uninstalled. Yeah? Like for instance, when Prabhupada obtained Radha Landalashvara, before the installation, was they present before the installation ceremony?
Yes.
Very much so. Yeah? When Prabhupada got the deities, he was driving, and he said, "Stop the van." You know the story. Prabhupada got in the back of the van and Govinda and Hare Krishna, tears coming down, he was praying. So they was present, very much present, So they wasn't installed. Yeah? So it's the devotion of the devotee. The Lord's present. So also in Mayapur, when they installed the Panchatattva, then when the Panchatattva came from all the way from South India or wherever they were manufactured, and they came into the Navadvip, then they went to worship them. And there was an extra special kirtan, a mood of euphoria, where everyone was in total, ecstasy. Their presence was so strongly felt there. And that was before the prana pratishtha, before the whole prana pratishtha, the big ceremony. So prana pratishtha, the big ceremony, is more for us, to make an impact on us, to make it for us to make a commitment. So that's why it's there. So we have something. Even the home worship is a small abhishek. So the worship's like the contract of worship begins at that point. You understand? So Is that clear? How to install deities at home? Any questions about that? Okay. Perhaps we'll stop here. Is that okay? Lunch? 5 minutes earlier. Okay. So.
Lunch. It's
Oh.
1
1 hour.
1 hour.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so keep going. Yeah, you're right. Okay, no problem. We should keep going. Yeah. Everyone's not getting wants to drink some water. Let's have a break for 5 minutes. So there's a few not everybody. Take some water. Use the bathroom. Check what I'm supposed to do.
So they give a lot of demigods. So we're trying to discuss what to do with it, what to do with all the demigods.
Yeah.
If you want, we can start off with that discussion then. So, what to do with all the different deities that you have, that may be devas or demigods. Which sometimes, when family members know that you become devoted and you'll be taken on the path of devotion, then they're quite happy to give you all their deities from. So, what do you do? I'm asking you what to do.
No, I've got them just underneath the cupboard now. The wooden cupboards.
Yeah, that's it. We are exclusively dependent on Vishnu, on Krishna. And that's our meditation. And that's called Kevana Bhakti. Because we're one point of attention. We have complete faith in Krishna. Krishna will take care of all of our needs. The worship of different devas is often based on materialistic point, values. The worshipping for various materialistic things. Well, we have great respect for the devas, but we're not interested in that. And the devas do not accept worship as such. They want us to worship Krishna. They want us to concentrate. Krishna is like the root of existence. So there's no offence whatsoever if those deities are just kind of not on the main altar. Often it can, depends on your household, depends on a particular situation. But especially in temples, then I get asked quite often, if I Lord Shiva, can you put this and that? Lord Shiva is the greatest devotee, and everything like that. Well, no, because people, okay, we understand the title of Lord Shiva, he's eternal servant, he's but it confuses people. Because persons worship Lord Shiva for all types of material things as well. So there's no offence, there's nothing wrong if you've got this whole, what do you call it, this whole kaleidoscope of deities. I mean, how many demigods are there? Millions? You've got a quarter of them there. Fine, you just have Krishna, they'll be very happy, they'll be in ecstasy. You know? And there's no offence. You know? No offence. Is that okay, yeah? Okay. So we're going to... just ask some question here. Who doesn't have an altar at home? Does anyone not have an altar at home? I suppose you'll come here because you do have altars at home. So, okay, does anyone new to deity worship? Who has just pictures at home? Who has pictures at home? Anyone doesn't have any deities at home? Okay, you've all got deities, so we're going to perhaps look up. It's still relevant. It's setting up your altar. You know, you may have questions about where your altar is and what's some of the things to consider, or you might be advising someone in your mentorship group, and you maybe get thinking of having an altar. So some of the things that you might want to consider, yeah, in this regard. We'll discuss these a little bit now. What's some of the criteria? Well, first thing we've discussed already is who will be worshipped. And what do we generally Parampara, Onitai, yeah, Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra, Radha Krishna. Generally Prabhupada would encourage devotees at home to have Gaunitai. Yeah? Doesn't mean you can't have Radha Krishna. Yeah? Just Prabhupada would generally recommend that. Now, this point, I won't give out this here. This might help you. This is what you can take these and hand it back. Okay, what this is, I want to do that. Now it's kind of we discussed who will be worshipped, but I will touch on it a little bit now. This is just of what the worship should entail, or what the worship would entail. Yeah, what it means. Now, this is not scripture. This is general advice of the level of worship that you will offer to the particular deities that you have, or you're thinking of getting. Is that clear? It's not like Sashrik. But it's general advice that the deity worship ministry gives in home worship seminars based on experience. So if you have pictures of Guru, a Guru Garanga altar, so you may occasionally you offer the Boga there. Yeah? Should offer Boga all the time, no? Occasionally, it's okay. Occasionally it's a picture altar. There's no art of flowers. You can offer flowers, incense occasionally. You know? Again, do you remember what we said about pictures? No. What did it describe? No. Regulated worship is required, you know. So then you may occasionally offer Boga. It may be that you're not home for 3 days a week, you know. You're working, and occasionally when you are there, you offer Boga, it's fine. And you offer some flowers, some incense, yeah. Then you just do japa, kirtan in front of them in the morning before you go off to work or whatever. Yeah, there's pictures of Guru. And then you've got Guru Garanga pictures. Nice standard is at night, make sure it's clean, remove any flowers. You could offer dried fruits and nuts. You know. If your schedule is such, you offer dried fruit and nut, incense and flowers daily, and japa and kirtan. You follow me? Yeah? If you have Gaunitai, so these are Gaunitai deities, yeah? It's not the best printer, I was trying to adjust it so it fits in, but part went over the other page, then I was running out of time, I thought, oh, this I have to do. Excuse me. But if you have Gaunitai deities, then a standard might be for you, might want to do, you can do more, yeah, it's fine. So you may get chaddars, at night you put them in chaddars, you may not lay them down on the bed, you can put chaddars around them at night, yeah. Again, remove the flowers, no mantras needed as such, please, no mantras. You understand? You may not, there's no beds. You can, if you want more elaborate worship, you may buy beds. You can put them into bed. If not, just put chaddars on. Yeah. Whatever is cooked at home, then you offer to your Gaunitai. You may do one arti daily. At this point, you've got some, because they're deities now, they're not pictures. Yeah, you've got Gaunitai. So you do one dupe arti is just incense and flowers, once a day. Incense, flowers.
So can you show how to do the incense of like how many times and all?
Yeah, that's coming up after lunch.
Okay.
Yeah, arti and skills. Arti and skills. Dupe arti, fortnightly, dress them every 2 weeks. Yeah. So a bit more is required than Guru Garanga pictures, yeah? Every 2 weeks you dress them. What may be Kadishis?
The resin deities, the resin deities. The
resin?
fiberglass.
Fiberglass deities,
Yeah, they're a bit difficult to bathe.
Yeah, you can't bathe them, you should be careful.
So,
Yeah, this is, say you got brass Gaunitai, so that's why we did go over that. Fiber you should consider, that's why it's good, before we speak about this, what it is and what they're made of. Yeah, so this is considered made of brass, yeah? And then fortnightly, you're bathing once every 2 weeks, so it could be one Ekadashi, twice a month. Again, japa kirtan. Now, you've got the big boys coming in. Jagannath and Baladev, Subhadra. So now you've got Gaunitai and Jagannath Baladev, Subhadra. So here's, again, this is a recommended pathway that you might follow. So you offer chaddars at night. Again, there's no beds. You know? remove the flowers, as the other steps, whatever's cooked in the home, boga, arti, same, just do arti, dressing. No, sorry, I'm reading the wrong one. Sorry, excuse me, I was reading Gaudi time. Excuse me. Chadas remove. And then you might introduce, because now you have Jagannath, so the standards a bit more up it is Gaudi time. So then you may chant some mantras to put him to sleep and waking up. Or you can say, my dear Lord Jagannath, Balaram, Subhadra, please wake up. Fine. You can say it in English. Yeah? But you understand the little thing you can do. You can introduce mantras now, Jagannath's there.
Does arti twice?
Yeah, we'll come to that. Dried fruits plus what you offer, their special offering, dried fruits, they get special offering, you make for them. Yeah? And everything that the household is. Yeah? Homemade pizza, pasta. Yeah.
We don't do dry fruits, we do fresh fruits.
Yeah,
Is that okay?
Even better.
Yeah.
Fresh fruits. Fresh fruits even better. Yeah. And so arti, now it's gone up to twice daily. And that's a dupe arti, yeah? Twice daily you may do incense and flowers. It doesn't say dupe arti, but twice daily you have, because you've got Jagannath now, so a little bit more. Yeah? Dressing once a week. Yeah? Again, these are suggestions of a pathway. Because something can be quite confusing, isn't it? I mean, what to do? We've got Jagannath. This is something pathway you might follow.
We were told just every Ekadasi, even when we had Jagannath Baladev Subhadra, so we've been doing it every Ekadasi.
Every Ekadashi?
Yes.
Fine. Well, what do you do every Ekadashi?
Dressing, yeah. Yes.
Dressing a baby?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, yeah. Again, this is not hard and fast rule.
Okay.
It's just to help to give some type of guidance of what worship you may offer. You know? Where were we? Jagannath, yeah. Weekly dressing, weekly bathing. With Jagannath, if they're wooden deities, then you're not going to pour water over them all the time, you just wipe them with a cloth.
Yeah. Wash them with sandalwood.
Yeah, but be careful if they're made of wood,
Okay.
because they ain't going to last. If you keep just keep. Here downstairs, we don't bathe a big Lord Jagannath. Once a year, it's non-yatra. But then we have to repair him after that.
Yeah.
We just wipe him down with a cloth because he's having the pastime of being wood.
Is it like a wet cloth or?
Yeah, damp, just to get the dust off. Very bad. And japa. Okay, then we have Gaudi Tai and Radha Krishna. Okay. Radha Krishna did his here. Chadas, remove. Again, chadas. Flowers, mantras. This time beds has appeared. Yeah, Radha Krishna did, so again you up, sorry, Radha Krishna. It's a bit more, it's right. So you may get some beds made, you know? Some little beds. Well, you may even not have a bed made, you may have a little mattress, you make, you put them there. You chant mantras for them to sleep, touching their lotus feet. Please go to sleep. Arti, twice daily. One can be a full arti. So we'll show you that after lunch, a full arti. One a dupe arti, one a full arti. Dressing daily. Dressing with Radha Krishna. It's a nice standard to have. You dress daily. Bathing 2 or 3 times a week. Yeah. Again, it's not scriptural, it's just a general bag. Yeah. Japa and Kirtan and other. What's on the next page? We turn over this. So you've got Gaudi Tai, Jagannath, Baladev Subhadra and Radha Krishna. You've got the whole gang there. Change your clothes, chant the mantras, you've got beds, daily. So you've got third one is offering boga daily at regular times. As regular as possible. You've got offering a boga this time. Twice, daily at regular times. Twice, the next one is artis, twice daily. One could be a full arti, daily dressing, and every morning bathing the Lord. Every morning bathing. Yeah. And then Japa and Deities. Okay, so you can keep that with you. It's a resource, some type of guide. You know? Yes.
Is Krishna Balaram stand for the same as Radha Krishna?
Is Krishna Balaram standing the same as Radha Krishna? You know Krishna Balaram standing the same as... Yes, I think it is. It's the same standard. Yeah. The same standard they established in... Yeah. So let's go back here. So we're on some considerations, you know. So we've discussed a bit who will be worshipped. Who will do the worship? Yeah, who's going to be the husband or the wife, or who's going to do the worship? You're going to decide that. Who's going to do the worship? Normally the wife's the more interested and fired up to do the worship. So who will do the worship? You know, there should maybe discussion that's needed. You know, like that. Who's basically got the time for it? Who wants it? The budget, position, how much you. Budget shouldn't take much. You know, it depends on your level of worship as you went through. You know, position of your altar. Where was I just reading that? Here, Prabhupada said. Yeah, he's speaking about, I probably won't identify quickly now, but I just read the quote during the break. He was speaking about animals and deity worship. He said it's okay, but you should be careful. The animals shouldn't have access to the altar. You know, that's why the position of the altar should be important. If you've got children, or if you do have animals, perhaps the altar shouldn't be down here. It should be up here. You know? So you should consider that. You know? The actual height and the position. We described already the position of the altar. We gave some slides of where there's light, sun, things like that. The budget, how much is it going to cost, you know? Well, then the altar itself, how elaborate it is, you know, do you get one from India or do you get so-and-so people to knock one up to make one, you know? Like that, consider these things.
Sorry, just going back to the point on the height. How high should the altar be? And where should the deity sit? Like, when we offering arti, generally we'd be standing up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, is it okay if the deities are maybe about that?
Yeah. It's again, so you consider your specifics not on the floor.
No,
it's not.
It should be raised. Yeah, that should be raised. It should be raised. So consider, are the children in the house? Will there be children in the place where the altar will be? What is under or above the altar? Yeah. Is it a dirty washing under the altar? No, shouldn't be. Consider these things. Is the top going to be a storage place? Other things? What is under and above the altar? Often this is the things we consider after we get deities, isn't it? So they get all fired up to bring deities and where do we put this side, that higher? So I suppose we have a good idea to think of these things beforehand, you know. And that's the idea of doing this, of course. And most of you all have deities at home, altars. How you might advise someone else. What else would be in the room? Have you got Sri television in your room?
Could become a gym.
Huh?
A gym. Some people have no altar and then the gym.
Yeah. So who else? What else would be in the room? So you might want to, again, we described earlier, wasn't it? It might not be in the front room due to various circumstances. It might be, if you can have a separate room, that's great. It might be upstairs, or in the kitchen you may have a picture altar, like we showed, you know? Like your other altar, something where you do worship, where it will be, you know, depending on the room, you know. So these considerations.
So there was a question. Someone mentioned that we should be having the altar in one of the upper floor rooms. But is it okay to have it on a ground floor room? Even if you've got a room above it, is that okay? Because it's just that someone mentioned that you shouldn't have a room above it.
Houses are not made of luster. Yeah. Sometimes, like here we have Radha Krishna on the altar. We're treading all over them upstairs, you know. If we have many devotees have said you should build a big pyramid over Radha Krishna.
There's no space in it.
It's right in the middle of the Pujari room, you know. So if you do have facility for that type of thing, great.
No, it's just that we have our temple room on the ground floor, and people say, no, it should be
the ground floor. You mean?
I think like
the ground floor.
Yeah.
We have a townhouse. So
you have a
townhouse. So 3 floors. So kitchen and the temple room is on 1 floor. sitting room and a bedroom and then 2 bedrooms.
Especially for yourselves, I can imagine you probably have many devotees come to your house. You have Sundays there, things like that. So it's good. You have it in the downstairs.
So they take darshan and then we go upstairs, and then that's when the kirtan and everything happens upstairs. But everyone takes darshan and then goes upstairs.
Again, there's no scriptural things about this. Some devotees may say you should do that, you should do what's... Again, as with the main teaching is home worship to be very practical. Yeah? Very practical. Yeah? And do what's you can maintain. Yeah? Like that. Yeah? What happened there? We missed this. I don't know why it went off. Did anyone sabotage it? Huh?
No, it's still plugged in. I think it's just the Sony came up and it timed out or something like that.
Okay, how to turn it back on? We have
I don't know.
Okay. So turn it off or on?
The Wi-Fi just got switched off. Is that the reason?
Yeah.
You think
Maybe the
so?
Wi-Fi.
So I'm on Wi-Fi still. Is there a remote control?
Yeah, this one.
The TV's not connected to Wi-Fi.
This looks like the power's gone completely. The lights are still on.
You're connected to the...
Huh?
I use it off.
Let's come back.
I think so.
You will be patient.
That's
This is the altar for the moment.
So what is it connected? Wireless? Screen?
Yeah, I'm waiting for it to... It does this thing first, isn't it? Come on, anyway, so for
Apparently
now...
Wi-Fi's gone down.
No?
Our temple Wi-Fi has gone down.
Oh, that's why.
Maybe that's why.
Okay, because this is
Connected that one.
this is wireless.
Yeah.
Anyway, we continue. So, what is the altar made from as well? You might consider that. So wood is good, nice, looks nice. It's quite durable. You know. What's the altar made from? Let's see if this comes back. 1 second. Gold. 1486, yeah? Password?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, 1486. Okay, we're back. Okay, what is the altar made from? Again, it's nice to spend on Krishna. Spend money on Krishna. Give opulence to Krishna. Make your altar beautiful if you can. It's the focus of our lives is Krishna. So inviting Krishna into our home, and we should, of course it doesn't, we should pay the bills. Try to get the idea, we should give everything to Krishna, and He'll give everything to us. Even He'll give His own self to us. So, yeah, that's another point to consider. If you're going to get a really intricately carved altar with twists and turns and this and peacocks and elephants, and there's going to be lots of, I tell you from experience, from downstairs, dust flecks everywhere, everything dusty. You've got to clean with a toothbrush, everything. So if you want, how much time you got to clean the altar, Of course it's devotional, you're cleaning the altar. At the same time you've got to think of time, how much time you're going to spend, Nice to get a beautiful altar, but be practical. Can I clean it? Can I clean it often? Because we should clean the altars. We should clean the deities, clean the altars,
While cleaning the altar, do we also need to be the altar clean like we do here, or even while touching the deities, as you say, putting chadar on, putting them to sleep, do we need to be like...
The first class standard is that you are in clean devotional cloth. That's first class standard. Next class standard, you should be in clean clothes. Yeah? That's the next standard. For home worship, you don't have to be exactly the same altar clean, but it's a nice standard to have. It's a nice standard to have. Am I making sense? A nice standard to have. But when you do your worship, you do take shower beforehand. Yeah? You take shower, or when you wake up in the morning, so we all take bath, Put on tea-lax, nice thing to do if you can, before you do the worship. You know? Do you have particular standard you follow at home?
No, just as we are just talking, when we come back from work, we just have a shower and clean clothes.
Yeah, clean clothes. Yeah, clean clothes.
Yeah.
Devotional not, but clean clothes. You have
just
clean
have
clothes,
shower.
which are used just for doing
Just for
the.
worship.
Yeah. Yeah. What Prabhupada said about for Grihastha devotees, cleanliness is prominence, should be very, very exemplary, you know. So does that answer your question? That's very nice if you can have the standards of being clean, clothes clean, you know, devotional cloth, yes, if not, clean clothes, tilak, do achman before, at least before you do the worship. Everyone knows how to do achman here?
So the achman is short achman or full achman?
Short finds at home. Short achman, Keshivaya Namo, Narayana Namo, Madhavaya. If you want to learn the full achman, that's fine as well. But we won't be teaching that here. Yes?
We've seen setting up of the altar. Is there any significance to the positioning of the photos on the altar? So, for example, the Shingadevi is on the right and Amshtat on the left. Is that
Not so much. It's nice if you have pictures of the Radha Krishna. They're more higher. They're more higher. Then you've got your Gauritai Deities. Then you have Panchatattva on the left, or the Shingadevi on the right, or vice versa. Doesn't matter so much. But because their height is quite nice. You've got Radha Krishna. You've got picture of Radha Gokulananda, say, up. And then in front of them, down the picture comes here, you've got Gauritai. Then you've got, if it depends on the altar, you've got another shelf on it. Then you've got your Parampara, you know? Similar setup as you see on our altars in temples. Similar like that. You know?
So Radha Krishna above.
Yeah, you've got pictures. You've got a picture of Londonishvara, you've got your picture. Then in front of that, to one side maybe, or down a bit, you've got your Gauritai, you know? Pictures of. Or deities, if you've got a picture altar, it may be Radha Gokulananda, Radha Londonishvara, in the middle. And then Gauritai to one side, you know? Sit around like that, like that. So your focus is the main deities, yeah? But you will have your main worshipful deities, you know? Maybe Gauritai, maybe Radha Krishna, maybe Jagannath, and they should be centered, you know? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, so this class now is, what I want to do is about rituals, because daily worship, home worship, temple worship, there's quite a lot of rituals we do. But it's a discussion here is rituals can become, or seeing can become quite dry, from like one perspective, you know. Yeah? They become so it's good to be able to, especially children, sometimes they're just doing rituals and perhaps not actually we're teaching them behind it the essence of devotion, but you know they may be doing, but they don't know why they're doing it. Why are they doing all these rituals? You know what's behind it. So can you just everyone take this and just read through it. So you just read through it. Then we're having another little discussion on this. This is a purple from the 6th canto. The Shema Vaita, I think it should be enough there. I'll just give you a few minutes to read that. And then because the next class this afternoon will be showing you some of the rituals. So if you could read it to yourself, this will be yeah, right. Okay, how's the reading coming? Don't want to push you too fast. Okay, all okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's then we can keep that interesting. This is from Srimad Bhagavatam, quite a well-known quote of Tampajari's notice quote about this from 6th canto, yeah? 6th canto. So let's just any positive from reading this, any positive understandings of ritual? What's the positive aspects of ritual?
Creates a samskara.
Creates, you can explain what creates a...
Like a positive impression. So it's like we have samskaras from all sorts of things, negative things around the world around it. So then we have positive samskara about in relation to the deity.
Yeah.
It's a spiritual samskara.
Is it needed? Are the rituals needed? Prabhupada in the purple, he's saying there, what's he saying?
Not needed.
It's not needed. But then at the end, what does he say?
Needed.
It's needed. Yeah. The rituals of deity worship. You know. And life involves a lot of rituals. I was looking online, looking at pictures on rituals, and there's a lot of rituals that a lot of non-devotees do. They're just rituals, you know. Like every year at Christmas time in London, over 2 days, there's thousands of Santas. There's thousands of people dressed as Santa Claus, of course, getting drunk and everything like that. Now it's become a ritual. You know? Well, Christmas is a ritual. We have a Christmas tree, you know? It's ritual. You know? So rituals are a very much important part of life, and they play a role in devotional life as well. But we should understand their purpose. You know? The rituals, the main purpose, as described earlier, the rituals and all the rules and regulations is meant to help us to remember Krishna. We shouldn't just get bogged down in rituals without understanding their purpose. They're there to give focus, they're there to give regularity, and they're there to express our devotion. Yeah? So that's the main function of rituals. We can express our devotion. If we're offering incense to Krishna, it's a ritual. You have to go 7 times, 1, 2, 3. You have to ring the bell. It has to be above your waist, you know. And the bell has got, glued on it. Has to be facing the demon. You count. Especially doing the pujari over a number of years, it's not enough. You have to go deeper. You have to go beyond the ritual, but you have to do the rituals. So the rituals are the vehicle for us to express our devotion. So, but without them, then what's it going to be? Imagine if there was no some rituals for a home. Imagine no rituals for temples. Just open the curtains, and when everyone fancied offering gold and jewels, everything would disintegrate. So it's very important. So that's a positive understanding of rituals. Yeah. They do play an important role. So we should learn why. As we describe the arti, the next lesson, we ask him, tell you what each item of the arti represents. It helps to have knowledge of these things. Yeah, there's so many. Because sometimes you can be offering arti to the deities, and it's very wonderful. Sometimes you can be, it's an experience. You can just be not there. But if you're there, you can be, if you're offering the arti, you can be offering prayers. As you're circling Krishna or Lord Shanmukha, you're offering prayers of devotion. And you're glorifying the deities as you're offering them the incense. Through the avenue of ritual. So, but most in Hinduism, all that gets left, the devotion goes out the window, everything goes out the window. The only thing left is the ritual. And they have to pay persons to do the ritual. No one wants to do the ritual even. all that's left is the ritual, and it's just a ritual. No one knows why they're doing it. They don't even know what the deity is about in front of them. You know. They get paid to do the ritual, and sometimes they like that. Temples, there's no one of the young people want to take up the worship from their fathers or grandfathers, and so they pay priests who come and they travel around the different temples just to ritually offer puja, and they don't even understand who is in front of them. That was just we was in one place. Where was we? We was in Vrindavan of all places, and who was it? Who was taking us on tour of these temples? We have Bhagavat Maharaj. What was it? And he asked the priest there, "Can you tell us about the deities?" No idea. I just get paid to come here and couldn't tell us about the history because he just gets paid to come and do the ritual. Yeah, but without any bhakti, then is it pleasing to the Lord? No. Yes.
How do we know if Krishna accepts our offering?
Yeah, that comes. That's a question we're going to park up because that will come in the Bhoga offering, which we are going to get to. Yeah, so I think we discussed a negative understanding of ritual. Yeah, I just touched on that. Yeah? Negative understanding of ritual. Any questions on that? Anything? Because at home worship you were doing ritual every day. You're doing this every day 20 years. 25 years. You know, there's devotion behind the ritual. You know? And I think we discussed that, purpose in following the ritual. Yeah? And it gives us some focus, it gives some, avenue, regularity, ritual. And we're surrounded by rituals, and atheist persons have rituals. There's all strange rituals that people do. I was looking for pictures on rituals to put up, and I was seeing some people they put metal through their cheeks like that, rituals. Like, see some religious ceremonies where they're whipping themselves and all blood's coming off their back, There's so many bizarre, and I described about, in the beginning of the class, about the place in Mexico where they're through this ritualistic ceremony to be free of Mr. Death or something, so they don't get shot. Anyway, and there's lots of rituals that we kind of follow in Vaishnavism, Hinduism, and such. Yes, I don't know what this is. A big ritual. Ringing the bell. Ganesh. Like, why do we ring the bell? That's a ritual. Some people really take that ritual very seriously. They ring it so loud. Yeah. So why do we ring the bell?
To let Krishna know that.
Yeah, that's it. So we should be aware of that when we're coming into just like we go into a house and we knock on the door. And we come into. Of course, Krishna knows everything, but it's more personal. Yeah, we ring the bell. We circumambulate temple as well, isn't it? There's Annaprashan, Brahmana, and that. Nice pictures, all these pictures.
Is there any reason for circumambulating the temple?
Is there any reason? I know it's in scripture. I can't quote the actual reference, but it's like, you get so much. By circumambulating the temple, you get so much spiritual credits. It's a very auspicious thing to do. Of course, we go clockwise.
Yeah.
To the right. It's a very auspicious thing to do. As much as I can say. The actual benefit. There's Hari Bhakti Vilas gives all the benefits you get for offering a land, offering it. Gives all these quotes of all over the Vedic scriptures of all the benefits that one gets. It's more to inspire persons to worship Krishna. Even material benefits, trying to inspire them to do some worship. So we circumambulate Mandaleshwar as well. We go around the block. Some people do that. They chant japa in the morning. Okay. This some negative again. That just reminded me here of some rituals can be just born out of speculation, and they have no grounding in anything at all. Prabhupada, who knows the story of the black cat? You know that, like the wedding and
The wedding and the cat in the basket.
We all know the cat. She saw the cat, her wedding, and her mother. What was it? Who's the?
But there was a cat just messing around.
The cat messing around. So she put the cat in the basket. So then when she grew up, she saw that happen, and she has to be a cat, has to be a basket at the wedding. You know? So you understand? So generations later, sometimes it's like that, and there's two here which goes on here in London. There's two rituals. One of them is it's not just here. What's Radharani's favourite? What's Radharani's favourite thing? What should you cook for Radharani on every Radhastami?
Is it this sweet called Mango?
No.
Plums.
Radha red plum chutney. You know, that's the tradition here. Everyone heard of that?
Yeah.
Radha red plum chutney. So every year on Radhastami, there has to be plums in the fridge. Because you have to ask for after Radha red plum chutney. Now the story of how that came about, I'll tell you how the story that came about. Malati, her daughter Saraswati, is it?
Yes.
Yeah. So one Radhastami here in London, they happened to get a donation of plums. Yeah? Someone donated boxes of plums. Yeah? So she was telling this story. No, Saraswati is the daughter of Malati. Yeah. So she's telling this story, and the reason she told the story was because Saraswati, after they cooked the plums in the big pot, then she fell in the pot. She was saying it, but then they still offered it to Krishna. But the point, you get the point I'm making. So just because they got a donation of plums, then they happen to call it, let's call it Radha red plum chutney, because when you make plums, they come out red. So now the ritual is every year you have to have plums to offer, because it's Radharani's favourite. It's not. Radharani doesn't have a concept of what's my favourite. Everything's Krishna. You know, but now it's like the ritual is that you have to have Radha red plum chutney. Sorry, I'm getting on a bit of a head of jarring. It's just a ritual which is born out of, if we didn't have, if we don't have plums next Radhastami, it's not the end of the world. It's become a ritual, but without no family, without no substance. So that could go on as well. There's another one, was when I was coming to the temple first, when they came to the temple, then at 9 o'clock the lights would always be turned down. Always be turned out and just the altar lights on. It's at 9 o'clock. Been going on for years. So there's one Mataji, she started to come to the temple, and she working late. So the only time she would come would be at 9 o'clock arti. So she did that for about 2 or 3 years, just coming from 9 o'clock arti, and see if she would go. And then her work changed. She started coming up for the 7 arti. So what does she do when she comes in at 7 arti? Turns all the lights off. So that becomes like a ritual, like every 7 nights, and then it becomes like, and then when everyone turns the lights on, no, got to turn the lights off. So that becomes the standard. That becomes the standard. Every 7 arti, you have to turn the lights off. Why? Oh, it's real. But because I've seen it over the years, I kind of see what's happening. And so the funny thing is, when I come past the temple at 7 o'clock, I turn the lights on. And everyone looks at me as if I make some big offence. What are you doing? You turn the... So then they come up, and then when I go, they turn the lights off. You understand the point I'm trying to make? Okay, it's not the end of the world, the lights are on or the lights are off, but you understand how, like in 10 years' time, where, you have to turn the lights off at 7 hours. You can understand where it's come from. So ritual is sometimes that we should make sure we're not, why are we doing the rituals? What's the reasons behind it? Are they based on something authentic or are they not? Otherwise, we could be doing all these things in our worship at home. We've got no idea why you're doing it. And if you look into it, the idea is it's not based on anything anyway. So
Prabhuji, I have to leave my car parking.
okay, then no problem. Yeah.
If I get parking, I'll come back. If not,
Yeah.
I have to go.
No problem. Thank you. So yeah, just anyone know about parking? No?
No steeper moves there, so. But if you move yourself,
Yeah, you just have to move the car
I'll
over.
try if I...
just-
even if it is the next spot.
Yeah,
no,
just
we are not allowed, in the same circle. If I park once for 4 hours, we cannot allow me to park, but I'll try.
yeah, try to.
It's,
Yeah, Russell's Field is at
there's an app, if you go to Just Park, that'll take you to where the free parking is.
Okay.
So
Just that.
Just
Just
Park.
park. Okay.
Just park.
Yeah, so it's showing like around here.
How far is it?
Russell Space, I mean.
Okay.
I'll try.
Okay, so we're going to stop at 1:45. Is that right?
Yeah, 140, 150.
1:40.
Until
You want to take photos?
But
So
she's
let's.
already gone.
Yeah. So this quote here: what is the difficulty of enforcing these rules, say rituals? Yeah? They are rules and they are simple rules and must be followed. Yeah? So one must be prepared to follow the rules of Krishna, otherwise where is the proof that he loves Krishna? And they are not very difficult to follow. Yeah? So there are rules, there are some rituals to follow. One devotee asked me the other day, he said, what was it? He said, does it matter all these small things? Does it really matter? It's our devotion that really matters, all these small things. But all the small things make up the complete picture. You understand? If you start to take away all the small things, then where is, as Prabhupada is saying here, if we're not prepared to follow the rules, which there's some, there's not so many, especially home worship, you know, they're not very difficult to follow. Okay? Any questions at all about rituals? Anyone know of any more rituals that go on in temples? Or?
There was,
Yeah.
there was a film a couple of years ago. We didn't watch it, but it was brought up in our Sunday group where these.
Something. What was it?
I don't know what it was, but anyway, these kids were standing outside the temples, and someone would just set up a small. They just put a stone there, and all of a sudden you'd get kids coming in at exam time to just.
Okay, give a donation.
Okay.
Like they put a Shiv stone there. I just put lines there, pretend it was a Shiv stone, and it was in one of the movies that said that everyone just to pass the exam, they'd come and do pray, please let me pass, please let me, sort of thing. Yeah.
So
This is so common
thousands.
in India, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
India for most of the
Thousands of
every day
rituals,
there's
thousands
something
of
new in the
reasons.
news channel. There's like, okay, they drinking milk and
Oh,
stuff,
yeah.
and eating them all.
Some of them are bona fide, some of them are not. So in other words, it should be. It doesn't mean it's all wrong. Maybe some meaning and some actual purpose behind them. It might be scriptural, but we're interested in the ones. We're not interested in making rituals where it doesn't need to be. At least understanding. Okay. So have a little. Bhoga offering. We won't get the whole thing now. We're just going to. We've got a couple of minutes. We'll just ask a question. That question came up. Who asked that question? How do we know if Krishna loves? Yeah. So this is the question here. First question is, why do we offer food to Krishna? What determines whether he accepts our offering? Yes.
It's basically just asking for his blessings for the food that we have. So
Yeah, asking for his blessings.
Yeah.
That's why we offer him bhoga.
Yeah. So basically, by offering, he's not actually going to eat it, but he blesses the food, and that's what we consume.
Does he eat it? Yes.
He does.
Yeah.
And that's his blessing. But he doesn't eat like us. He can eat with his eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he accepts that offering. But what is the what determines or not whether he accepts our offering? What is it? Devotion, isn't it? Yeah. Krishna accepts our devotion. Yeah.
do you measure devotion?
Who's got devotion?
Yeah.
Raise your hand if you've got enough devotion where Krishna's will accept your offering.
So we ask our spiritual master to
Yeah, you're going in the right direction. So the point quickly I'm trying to make here is that yes, devotion is the most important thing, but then we may subjectively question our devotion. Yeah. Now our devotion is expressing feelings to Krishna, ultimately, but our devotion is also expressed by following the directions of our spiritual master. Yeah? So just by following the principles of devotional service, in of itself, Krishna is obliged, not obliged, but Krishna will accept the offering. You understand? Yeah? Because devotion is very subjective. It's not like, you can imagine if it was just if that was that, then well, then it would be like in a temple. Well, I'm not taking any prasad because I don't think he hasn't got much devotion. How much devotion do you have, Prabhu? You're on the level of Baba, you're on the level of Prema, or how many natas do you have? Because I'm not sure whether Krishna accepted that or not. The main thing is we're following the regular principles and we're following the orders and we're following the directions of the spiritual master. Yeah? Where we're doing activities favourable for Krishna consciousness. Yeah? That determines whether Krishna accepts our offering. But we're just on this last slide before we break. The most important thing is devotion. Yeah? That's the most important thing. Should I do it? Let's see if it... Yesterday it worked, the sound, let's see.
Thing is bhakti. What you can offer to Krishna, everything belongs to Krishna. What you have got? What is your value? And what is the value of your things? It is nothing. Therefore, the real thing is bhaktya. Real thing is your feeling. Krishna, finally take it. I have no qualification. I am most rotten, fallen. But I have brought this thing for you. Please take. This will be accepted. Don't be prepared. Always be careful. You are dealing with Krishna. That is my request.
Jai Shri Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Very nice. Okay, Hare Krishna. So we're going to stop for before lunch, a photograph. Photo.